With the way the MCU has been going, and the way the MCU Spider-Man movies have been going, I did not expect to make this video. I won't get into it too much, because this isn't the point of the video, but I wasn't the biggest fan of No Way Home, and the ending especially felt a bit cheap. I thought it was brave at the time, but since then, I felt more and more like it was Marvel caving in to fan demands, setting up Spider-Man for essentially the same character arcs Tobey and Andrew went through. Because of this, I was very much not looking forward to the next installment. However, people grow and change, and even with my mixed feelings on where No Way Home ended, I can't help but get excited about Brand New Day. So, why? Well, to start, we have the director. Because John Watts is busy doing other things, Destin Daniel Cretton is taking his spot in the director's chair. Cretton is not a newcomer to the MCU, as he previously directed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi kind of feels like it just came and went, because like a lot of Marvel's post-Endgame projects, pretty much nothing from it has been addressed in later installments. However, the thing about Shang-Chi is it's good. It's a good movie. I would hesitate to call it one of Marvel's best because it is definitely not without its flaws, but what it succeeds in is kind of what you would want a Spider-Man movie to succeed in. In other words, the movie has really cool action. Now, the third act is rough, but a lot of the earlier fights are well choreographed, creative, and have a good sense of tension. One of the highlights of the film is the scene on the bus, where they have to fight in and around the bus while keeping passengers and pedestrians safe. Aside from action, Shang-Chi also has compelling characters and themes. While it isn't anything mind-blowing, Shang-Chi's story of finding purpose and reckoning with his past is engaging, and I found Tony Leung's Wenwu to be surprisingly complex and riveting. But talking about story and character, Shang-Chi isn't what sold me on Cretton as the director for Brand New Day. Short Term 12 was. Short Term 12 is a movie from 2013 about counselors at a teenage care facility, and I will try to talk about the plot of this movie as little as possible because I would recommend it to anyone watching this. It's an hour and a half long and it's free on Tubi, so it shouldn't be too difficult to watch. Anyway, the movie is sort of inspired by Cretton's time as a counselor at a facility like the one in the movie, and one of the things he does really well is empathetically depict teens and young adults dealing with trauma. With the way he writes and directs the characters in Short Term 12, I can see him handling Spider-Man at this point in his journey incredibly well. Now, to be fair, Destin Daniel Cretton isn't credited as a writer on this movie, but from what I gather, it seems like he still has a lot of input on how the story is handled. Also, the script seemingly hasn't gone through a ton of rewrites, at least as of now, which makes me feel like most of the people making the movie are happy with the direction of the film and are confident in their vision for it. Swinging away from the director for a bit, other things we know about Brand New Day also make me quite excited. Surprisingly, what I'm most excited about is the practical web swinging. Brand New Day has been filming at real locations in Glasgow, which I'm expecting to be an upgrade from the airplane hangar No Way Home shot in, and fans in the area have posted footage of a rig built for web swinging. I can't say I ever wanted to see Spider-Man's web swinging done practically, but from these on-set videos, it looks really cool. It's also just always nice to see Marvel movies leaning into practicality instead of just relying on CGI, something it feels like they have struggled with in the past few years, though this year they've been pretty good at balancing practical and digital effects. Speaking of practicality, the next exciting thing about this movie is the combat. I already mentioned Shang-Chi's impressive martial arts scenes and why I think Destin Daniel Cretton is an especially skilled action director, but the day I started writing this video, I found out that Jackie Chan's stunt team is working on the movie. For the sake of transparency, Jackie Chan is a blind spot of mine, but from what I have seen of his work, his action scenes are very creative and well paced, and the way they make use of both his surroundings and his physical attributes feels like a perfect example of how to do a Spider-Man action scene. Finally, of the stuff we know about this movie, I'm really excited to see a street-level Spider-Man movie again. I won't dwell on it too much because this is the same sentiment you've probably heard countless times from other Spider-Man videos and channels, but it's exciting to, hopefully, be getting another Spider-Man movie where his world feels fleshed out and lived in, and the stakes are more personal than they are cosmic. Once again, with the depth and complexity Destin Daniel Cretton is able to bring, albeit this time without a writing credit, this could end up having one of the best Spider-Man storylines we've ever seen on film. Or at least in live action, because the Spider-Verse movies are kind of operating on a different level. While everything we know about this movie excites me, what excites me more, aside from the web-swinging rig, is actually what we have yet to know. Like, for instance, the role the incredibly talented, Emmy-nominated actor Tremel Tillman is playing. The same goes for Sadie Sink, who is also incredibly talented and is currently rumored to play, it looks like, every female character who has ever interacted with Spider-Man in the comics. I mention this partly as an excuse to gush about how excited I am to see Tremel Tillman in more stuff, because it's just really fun whenever he pops up in things, but also because these are talented actors and the roles they play will probably, hopefully, be quite interesting. Maybe more importantly, I'm excited about how little we know of the plot of this movie. Okay, so Hulk and Punisher are in the movie at some point, and I think are rumored to fight Spider-Man. We still don't know who most of the villains are, what new characters are being introduced, or even what direction the plot is going in. I say this all as a positive because it means this movie has the potential to be basically anything, and, more importantly, it probably won't just be a rehash of previous Spider-Man movies. As I stated in the intro to this video, I felt a bit jaded toward No Way Home's ending because I thought it was cynical fan service. Because now they can show Spider-Man go through the exact same struggles you've already seen him go through. However, to quote Phoebe Bridgers, and part of why is because this story is being kept so tightly under wraps. Maybe I'm completely off base here, but if it were me, and for whatever reason I was making a Spider-Man movie where he fights a famous villain like Venom or Kraven, or even someone who didn't get their own spin-off movie, and he goes through the exact same highs and lows he went through in, like, Spider-Man 2, then I wouldn't be too worried about plot leaks. If people are pretty much showing up to see you play the hits, why would you need to hide it from them? So this is my long-winded way of saying I think not knowing anything about Spider-Man Brand New Day's plot means it will probably be fresh and original, and not knowing much of anything means the movie still has a lot of tricks up its sleeve. Look, I might be getting ahead of myself here. Brand New Day won't even come out for another 10, almost 11 months, and it could very well suck. This is the MCU we're talking about, so at the very least, I wouldn't be too shocked if the third act is disappointing. Also, this movie comes out right before Avengers Doomsday, which, you never know, could end up being great, but I can't say I'm holding my breath. So, yes, Brand New Day could tremendously disappoint. But man, if they get it right, it could be something spectacular.